Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going deep on Steve Dalton's book, The Job Closer.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about navigating the job search and career transitions.
Mhm.
You know, whether you're prepping for a whole career move or just looking to maybe level up at your current company, or even if you're just curious about how this crazy job market works,
Yeah,
it's for you.
absolutely.
So we're going to be uncovering some pretty unconventional strategies and frameworks to kind of make this whole process a little more efficient and maybe even, dare I say, a little fun.
One of the things that I found fascinating about Dalton's book is this whole shift from thinking about the job hunt as like an art to more of a science.
Yeah.
Like there's actual structure and strategy to it.
It's not just, sending out a million resumes and hoping for the best.
Exactly.
It's so funny you say that because I think we've all been there where you spend hours and hours like perfecting this resume
Oh, yeah.
and you send it out and it's like it just disappears into this black hole. Dalton actually argues that it's better to spend your time on activities that are going to give you a higher return, like
Hmm.
networking.
That's so important. And it's something that he really emphasizes in the book, how the rise of all these online job postings has just like fundamentally changed the game.
Yeah.
So resumes, while they're still important to get like the basic information across,
Right.
they become a lot less influential in actually grabbing someone's attention.
Mm. Yeah.
Employers are getting flooded with applications.
Yeah.
They're just doing a quick skim.
Yeah.
They don't have time to read every single one.
No.
So how can we use that 80-20 rule,
Right.
that Dalton emphasizes throughout the book to really make our job search efforts more effective?
I think it comes down to prioritizing.
Yeah.
Really thinking about, you know, are you spending hours tweaking your resume when you could be out there networking with people in your field?
Right.
Like the 80-20 rule means focusing on the things that are actually going to move the needle.
Make the biggest impact.
Yes.
He actually said,
Only spending a maximum of 3 hours on your resume
wow.
and focusing primarily on what he calls objective perfection.
Interesting.
And he actually pushed for this at Duke.
He did.
Like he was working at the Career Center.
Yep.
And they actually found that employers primarily complained about errors,
Oh, really?
not the content. So like spelling, grammar, formatting,
Got it.
those need to be flawless.
Okay.
But content-wise, aim for good enough and move on.
Interesting.
So he actually got employers to care less about these super fancy resumes.
That's surprising.
It's amazing.
It is.
Right.
The focus should really be on your skills and experience.
Mm-hmm.
And Dalton, he actually has this exercise in the book called You Bet Your Life.
Oh, intriguing. Tell me more about this.
So it's designed to help you identify your core strength.
Okay.
And the question is, name a single professional skill or ability in which you are most confident you are in the top 1% of the world.
Wow.
And you only get 1 minute to answer.
Oh, wow. So you got to think fast.
It really forces you to think about what sets you apart
Okay.
beyond all the usual cliches.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where your unique skills and abilities kind of align with what the market actually values.
Exactly. And he really believes that this skill should in some way be compensated in your career.
Makes sense.
So once you've identified that strength, the next step is figuring out potential career paths
Right.
where your strengths can really shine.
Yeah.
And Dalton recommends checking out the StrengthsFinder test.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that.
It helps you identify your top 5 talent themes,
Cool.
which can be super helpful when you're trying to frame your strengths during the job search.
I like that. And so once you kind of have an idea of some potential career paths, how do you actually test them out?
Don't forget about informational interviews.
Oh, yeah. Those are great.
They are a fantastic way to evaluate different career paths by talking to people who actually hold those positions. It's not just about getting information.
Yeah.
It's about building relationships.
Yeah.
And really understanding the day-to-day realities of those roles.
And Dalton, he actually addresses some common concerns that people have about career changes.
Yeah.
Like, what if you have financial obligations or your dream job seems totally unrelated to what you're doing now?
Right.
What does he suggest?
He encourages a realistic approach.
Okay.
Of course, you got to consider your financial needs.
Yeah, I got to pay the bills.
But he also emphasizes that genuine passion for your work often leads to greater success in the long run.
Right. If you love what you do, you're going to be better at it.
Exactly. And he also advises testing the waters.
Okay.
Maybe taking some classes or shadowing someone
Yeah.
before you make a drastic leap.
Dip your toes in.
Exactly.
Now, Dalton also uses this really interesting analogy.
Oh, yeah.
He compares the world of employees to an archery target.
Interesting.
So those with conventional skills and personalities are like the bullseye people,
Okay.
easy to place and easy to replace.
Right.
But then there are those on the outer rings
Yeah.
with more unique skills and interests.
Mm-hmm.
And they face a totally different challenge. They have to be much more deliberate in their search
Right.
to find those niche areas where their skills are actually valued.
So it's not about fitting in.
It's about standing out.
Yeah. It's about embracing what makes you different.
I love that now, even though resumes have become, you know, less influential,
Right.
they still need to be well crafted.
Absolutely.
And Dalton really emphasizes this distinction between responsibility statements and accomplishment statements.
Interesting.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So imagine you're looking at a resume.
Okay.
A basic resume is going to have a lot of responsibility statements,
Mm-hmm.
essentially just regurgitating the job description.
Right.
But accomplishment statements are different.
Yeah.
They highlight the impact of your actions
Okay.
using specific examples and quantifiable results.
I like that. So instead of just listing tasks, you're showcasing your achievements
Exactly.
in a way that's going to grab the hiring manager's attention.
Yeah. Dalton outlines 3 levels of resumes.
Oh, okay.
Basic, good and great.
Wow, a whole rating system.
The basic resumes stick to responsibilities.
Okay.
Good resumes add quantifiable results when available.
Mm,
And great resumes always provide results,
nice.
even if they're not easily quantifiable.
And remember, Dalton is all about efficiency.
Yeah.
So instead of obsessing over these tiny details,
Right.
focus on that objective perfection.
Mm.
Spelling grammar, consistent formatting.
You can even use tools like VMOC
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
to catch those pesky errors.
So get the basics right and don't overthink it.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the resume.
Yep.
What's next in Dalton's scientific approach to the job search?
He actually encourages you to start thinking about interview stories now,
Oh, wow.
even before you send out those resumes.
Interesting.
Each bullet point on your resume should be a story you can tell.
That's a great tip. So how do we turn those resume bullet points into compelling stories?
He suggests creating what he calls a CIAR matrix to organize them.
Right.
CAR stands for Challenge Action Result.
Okay.
It's a framework for structuring your interview responses.
Interesting.
And we'll dive deeper into that a little later.
Excellent. So we've got our resume polish.
Yep.
We've got our car matrix brewing.
Mm-hmm.
What's next on the agenda?
Let's see.
We'll find out after the break.
Okay, so let's talk about LinkedIn.
Okay.
It can feel so overwhelming with all the buzzwords and the endorsements and everything.
Yeah, it's a lot.
How can we create a strong profile without getting lost in all the noise?
Dalton actually advocates for a pretty minimalist approach.
Okay.
What he calls the MVP LinkedIn profile.
MVP.
Yeah, minimum viable product.
So we don't need to have the premium account and spend hours crafting this perfect profile.
Not at all.
Okay, cool.
Just focus on the essentials.
Okay, what are those?
So a professional photo,
Got it.
a compelling headline that really captures your essence,
Okay.
and then just the factual experience and education sections.
And actually, he recommends resisting the urge to overinvest in that about section.
Really?
Yeah, keep it concise, authentic, and focused on what you want employers to know.
What about the recommendations and the skills and endorsements?
Yeah.
It seems like everyone's always chasing those.
He actually suggests skipping those sections altogether.
Really?
Yeah, they're nice to have, but they're not essential for landing interviews.
Right.
And remember, we're all about prioritizing those high-impact activities.
Efficiency.
Exactly. And spending hours chasing endorsements.
Yeah.
That's not going to move the needle.
So quality over quantity on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
What about cover letters? Are those still even relevant in the age of online applications?
Dalton argues that they're more important than ever
Oh, okay.
because they give you an opportunity to provide a writing sample
Oh, yeah.
and to really demonstrate your ability to connect with the employer's needs.
I see.
And he introduces this really simple framework
Okay.
called RAC,
RACS.
Reason Anecdote Connection,
Oh, I like that. Easy to remember.
to craft compelling cover letters.
Can you break down what works?
Sure. So think of it like an email to your future boss's boss.
Okay.
Keep it lean, focused, and error-free
Right.
for each reason,
Mm-hmm.
which is a skill or attribute you want to highlight.
Okay.
You provide a brief anecdote,
Mm-hmm.
a specific example demonstrating that skill,
Got it.
and then you connect it back to the employer's needs, explaining why they should care.
So instead of just listing accomplishments,
Yeah.
you're framing them in terms of how they benefit the employer.
Exactly. It's a very customer-focused approach.
I like it.
And Dalton also debunks the myth of keyword stuffing for those applicant tracking systems.
Oh, yeah. Everyone talks about that.
Authenticity and genuine connection.
Yeah.
Those are way more important than keyword tricks.
Right. You want to connect with a human, not a machine.
Especially for those facilitated cover letters,
Oh, yeah.
where someone is vouching for you.
Right.
Error-free writing is critical.
Yeah, you don't want a typo to sabotage their efforts.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on to interviews.
Okay.
Dalton claims that 60% of interview decisions are made in the first 15 minutes.
Wow.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it really highlights the importance of nailing those initial interactions.
Right.
First impressions, small talk, and what he calls the big four questions.
The big four. Okay, can you remind us what those are?
Of course.
And how we can prepare for them.
Yeah.
So the big four are, tell me about yourself, why this job, why this organization, and what are your strengths and weaknesses?
Okay, the classics.
Mastering these questions is crucial
Got it.
for a successful interview.
Dalton provides this structured approach
He does.
called the FAT model.
Yep.
Favorite insight transition
Uh-huh.
for tackling that tell me about yourself question.
Yes.
What exactly does that entail?
So imagine you're telling a story,
Okay.
not just reciting facts from your resume.
Right.
You start with your favorite aspect of your previous role.
Then you share the insight that led you to seek a change.
Okay.
And finally, you transition smoothly into your current situation or career aspirations.
So it's about crafting this concise and engaging narrative
Yeah,
that highlights your key experiences and motivations.
exactly. It's way more memorable than just reading off your resume.
And what about those tricky situations,
Mhm.
like career gaps, promotions, layoffs?
Mm.
How does Dalton suggest we address those?
He emphasizes authenticity
Okay.
and encourages you to frame your experiences in a positive light.
Okay.
So, for example, if you were laid off,
Right.
focus on the insights you gained
Yeah.
or the skills you developed that make you a stronger candidate now.
So turning a potential negative into a positive.
Exactly.
How about the why questions?
Right.
Why this job? Why this organization?
Yeah, those are big ones.
What are Dalton's recommendations for those?
He suggests using a modified RAC approach.
Oh, okay.
You still present your reasons and anecdotes,
Right.
but the connection might not always be necessary.
Got it.
The key is to be authentic, specific, and informed.
So do your research on the company.
Exactly.
Talk to people who work there.
And draw on reputable sources.
Helps to support your answers.
Mhm.
So it's about showing that you've done your homework
Yes.
and that you really understand the company and the role.
And now for those dreaded behavioral interview questions.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
The ones that start with, tell me about a time when...
Those always trip me up.
This is where your CAR matrix comes in.
Okay.
Remember, each bullet point on your resume should be a CAR story waiting to be told.
Okay.
The challenge you faced,
Yeah.
the actions you took, and the results you achieved.
Got it.
Practice these stories until you can deliver them naturally and confidently.
Preparation is key.
It is.
Any other tips on making those car stories really stand out?
Dalton suggests quantifying your results whenever possible.
Okay.
So instead of saying, I improved efficiency, say, I implemented a new system that reduced processing time by 20%.
Oh, I like that. Much more specific.
Use buts and therefores to connect your actions to the results
Okay.
and really highlight that impact.
What about those tough questions
Mhm.
about failures, weaknesses, setbacks?
Those are tough.
How can we use Dalton's approach for those?
He introduces the SCAR framework,
Score.
setback, challenge, action, result.
Okay.
It allows you to leverage a past mistake as a learning experience.
So instead of shying away from those questions,
Yeah,
we can actually use them to show our ability to learn and grow.
exactly. It's all about demonstrating resilience, accountability, and a growth mindset.
That's a great way to frame it. And what about those hypothetical problem-solving scenarios?
Oh, yeah.
Where they're like, imagine you're in this situation, what would you do?
Right, those can be tricky.
Dalton offers what he calls the ready-to-eat approach,
Ready to eat.
or RTE.
Oh,
That's
okay.
a simple 3-step structure.
Nice.
Understand the problem, brainstorm solutions, implement the best solution.
That's great.
So it helps you approach those open-ended questions
Yeah.
in a structured and logical way.
It takes away some of the anxiety
Yeah, for sure.
of not knowing what to expect.
Okay, so we've covered resumes, LinkedIn cover letters,
And
different types of interview questions.
Yep.
What happens once the interviews are done? All right, so the interviews are done. Hopefully we knocked it out of the park using all these awesome strategies.
Hopefully.
What happens next?
So now comes the home stretch.
Okay.
Dalton dives into the often overlooked, but super important stuff like following up negotiation and making those final offer decisions.
Let's start with follow-up. What does Dalton suggest?
He really emphasizes a polite and professional thank you email within 24 hours of your interview.
Okay.
But then he also recommends setting a reminder to follow up again, like a week before the employer's expected response date.
Okay, so staying top of mind without being too pushy.
Exactly. It shows continued interest while respecting their timeline.
I like that. What about negotiation? When should we start talking about that?
Dalton actually recommends holding off on negotiations until about a week before the offer deadline.
Interesting. Why wait so long? Wouldn't it be better to negotiate right away?
Delaying actually preserves your optionality,
Okay.
especially if you have other interviews lined up.
Right.
And it kind of subtly signals to the employer that you're a sought-after candidate.
Clever, very clever.
Okay.
So once we're ready to negotiate, how should we approach it?
So before diving into like a full-blown negotiation, Dalton suggests a pre-negotiation call,
A pre-negotiation
or
audit.
PNC.
Okay.
This lets you kind of gauge the employer's flexibility on things like salary, benefits, and start date.
So it's like testing the waters before you dive in headfirst.
Exactly. And then when you're ready for the actual negotiation, Dalton's a big advocate for what he calls a principles-based approach.
Principles-based approach. Okay.
Yeah. So it's about focusing on shared interests, generating options, and aiming for a win-win outcome.
So more collaboration than confrontation.
Yeah. Exactly. Remember, negotiation isn't about being adversarial. It's about finding a solution that works for both parties.
Okay, so let's say we've received an offer, we've negotiated the terms, and we're facing that final decision to accept or decline.
The moment of truth.
Can be a lot of pressure. Any advice for this stage?
Dalton introduces a really unique approach. He calls the sleep on it exercise.
Sleep on it, like literally sleep on it.
Yeah, it's about tapping into your intuition, your gut feeling.
Okay.
You literally sleep on the offer for 2 nights, paying attention to your dreams, your energy levels, your overall feeling.
Wow, so it's not just about the logic, but also how the offer makes you feel?
Exactly. The goal is to gain clarity and make a decision that feels right for you.
I like that it's like listening to that inner voice that we often ignore.
And once you've made your decision, remember to inform your network.
Oh yeah, good point.
They've invested time and effort in helping you, and it's just courteous to let them know the outcome.
So they can focus on supporting others. Easy to forget about our network when we're caught up in the excitement of a new job.
It is.
Okay, so we've accepted the offer, we've celebrated with our network,
Yep.
and we're about to start. Our new role is Dalton's job search science over.
You know, the journey doesn't end when you land the job.
Oh, really?
Dalton really stresses the importance of internal networking even after you've started.
So we still need to network even though we already have the job.
Absolutely. He highlights 2 key techniques: coffee chats and weekly manager meetings.
So coffee chats aren't just for job seekers?
Nope. Think of them as informational interviews with colleagues within your organization.
Okay.
Use them to learn about different departments and roles, gather insights, and build relationships with people who can support your growth.
It's like continuing the job search, but within the company itself.
Exactly. And then don't underestimate the power of those weekly manager meetings.
Yeah, those can be super helpful.
They're more than just status updates. They're opportunities to showcase your progress, align on priorities, and proactively seek guidance.
So we should go into those meetings with a plan.
Definitely, Dalton recommends a structured agenda.
Okay, what does that look like?
So, updates from the previous week, priorities for the coming week, additional priorities if time allows, and then questions you have for your manager.
So having that clear agenda makes sure that your manager is aware of your accomplishments, understands your workload, and can give you feedback.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and showing your commitment to excellence.
I like that.
And he encourages you to use the update section to highlight your wins, not just list tasks.
Okay.
Frame your accomplishments in terms of their impact on the team or the organization.
So our contributions are recognized and appreciated.
And then the priorities section lets you discuss your workload, align on key objectives, and proactively address any potential bottlenecks.
It's all about communication, making sure everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. And then the questions section shows that you're engaged, curious, and eager to learn and grow.
Making the most of that time with your manager. So there we have it. We've covered a lot of ground today, from crafting those awesome resumes and LinkedIn profiles to acing those interviews, negotiating offers, all through the lens of Dalton's The Job Closer.
It's been a journey.
Has any final takeaways for our listeners?
I think Dalton really challenges that traditional art of job hunting and advocates for a more structured, strategic, data-driven approach.
It's like ditching the old outdated advice and taking control of your job search.
And his book is packed with actionable tips and frameworks that can be applied at every stage.
So by focusing on those high-impact activities, networking strategically, and mastering those interview techniques, you can really increase your chances of success.
And remember, the journey doesn't end when you get the job. Internal networking is key for continued growth.
Absolutely. Dalton's book is an incredible resource for anyone navigating this crazy job market.
Whether you're just starting out, or you're a seasoned pro, or just looking to level up.
This deep dive has given you a solid foundation and a lot to think about. So what's one small step you can take today to implement one of these strategies?
Yeah.
Maybe it's finally dedicating those 3 hours to polish your resume, or reaching out to someone for an informational interview, or creating that structured agenda for your next manager meeting.
Whatever it is, take action.
The job search can be tough, but with the right mindset and the right strategies, you can land that dream role and really thrive in your career.
Absolutely.
Happy job hunting, everyone.